Well, good afternoon, everybody. I am on my way home, running around, and had lunch with hubby and the baby, of course. And I just wanted to come on real quick because I was just listening to a very popular podcast by Jay Shetty, and I love his podcast. I think you guys would really like it too. And he talks about conscious living, and he has a lot of different authors and speakers and such who come on and share their expertise and experiences and their books and such like that. But it just got me to thinking about infertility, fertility, and even if you're not going through treatment right now, or if you're somebody who just follows me and you're not really into, infertility or fertility is not even in your part of your journey. But for the followers or people who see this who may not be followers on Instagram or may not be listeners of my podcast either, I just wanted to come on and possibly remind you, maybe you've heard it before, maybe you haven't, but I think it's important for us to focus on our emotional, mental, spiritual, and physical states in the midst of our go-throughs and our storms. And although for those who are infertile patients and going through maybe, minor fertility treatments, IUI and such like that, or in the beginning, or are waiting to have their first consult and not necessarily starting yet, I wanted to remind you and to be a warning to those who may not have started as well, but for those who are already in the journey, to take care of your mental, spiritual, emotional, and physical self. I found going through the journey, it will affect every part of that in every sense of the word. Emotional, physical, mental, and spiritual. And for those who've been on the journey very long, you can raise your hand and attest to that, or leave a comment and share your experience with someone else. But I just want to urge everyone to really focus in on those 4 areas of your life, more now than ever, because we are in a new year. And the year is already starting. We're already in the middle of January, getting ready to go into February very shortly. It's going to fly freaking by after this week. And for myself, it's nothing that I would ever say to you guys that I have never done myself or am not practicing myself. So, and I'm a big believer in not being a hypocrite. So I try not to be a hypocrite as much as possible. So there'll never be anything that I say or suggest that I myself have not done or in the middle of doing or continuously doing, to grow and to get to know myself better and to just be a better person and better human overall. But I think it's important that for those especially who are just beginning their journey, to really pay attention to those areas, get in tune with those areas, and stay in tune with those areas, not just for yourself but also for your spouse, and finding ways to come together collectively with your spouse if you're doing it with a spouse. If you're doing it single, find a tribe, find a community on Facebook that can relate to you and to help you stay accountable. Or if you want me to help you stay accountable, I'll help you stay accountable for your mental, spiritual, emotional, and physical self. Because when you first get your diagnosis that you need help conceiving, and even if you are the other partner who does not have the diagnosis, it's devastating for you too. And even though you may not have to have your body taxed with medications, with all types of testing, ladies, you know the kind of testing that we go through, and that the level of stress and pressure that it puts on you. You're already feeling stressed out because maybe you're the one with the diagnosis. If it's the male who has the diagnosis, he'll have to go through testing, and you'll have to support him as well. But I think that it's so important in the beginning, in which I had have done in the beginning, was to take a break. And I'm not saying it like you need to take a year break, you need to take a 6-month break. Just take a break. After you get your diagnosis, take a break. Let it resonate. Let it really swirl around in your subconscious mind. Feel all the feels. Go through all the emotions, the crying, the screaming, whatever it is you need to do, and deal with it as a couple. Or if you're single and going through it by yourself, really need to deal with that. And that is something that I wish I did in the very, very beginning. Now, it ended up coming to that because we just weren't ready to move forward. So I got a diagnosis of right tubal blockage, and then we had IUI right after that, right? But I didn't take a break. I jumped right from the diagnosis to IUI, and I didn't really process, and I didn't really resonate. life forced me to end up having to deal with it for a 4-year long period in between the IUI and going to get IVF treatment. 4 years, y'all. 4 years. It took me 4 years, and it also took my husband 4 years, because not only did he have to come to the realization that not only did I have to come to the realization that I needed help, because my body wasn't doing what what the Creator created us to do. My husband had to come to terms with it too, as a man, because you have this image in our head. We say it all the time in the community. We have this image in our head of what it should and could be like to have children and to conceive naturally. But of course, as we all know, we're here, so it doesn't happen that way a lot of the time, and it's becoming more prevalent all over the world, and it's becoming more common. And I think a lot of it has to do with I'm not even going to get into it. I'm gonna just leave it there. So I would suggest, if you just gotten diagnosed and you're in the beginning of the journey and you have just gotten diagnosed, like I said, I'm sorry, I'm trying to switch lanes. If you just got diagnosed and you're in the beginning of fertility, trying to conceive infertility, and been to the RE to consult and such, and got all your blood work done, and you've had your HSG to check your fallopian tubes, ladies, men, you've had your sperm tested and such, take time to deal with that. Take time to process that. Because if you have to go through treatment to get pregnant, guess what? The RE is not going to go anywhere. The RE's doctor's clinic he's not going to go anywhere. She's not going to go anywhere. So give yourself a minute. And then also, you're going to have to give yourself a minute anyway, because if it's a condition like what I had, which is hypothyroid disease, because after we went back 4 years later and I got more testing done again, my right tube wasn't blocked anymore. The radiologist said that sometimes that there's mucus gets stuck in there, from a woman's menses, and so it sometimes will clear itself off, which happens. So I was grateful for that. But then I got diagnosed through a blood test with hypothyroid disease, and I had to be on the medication for at least 3 months before we could move forward. And then not only that, I had to have a hysteroscopy done to remove polyps in my uterus. So you're going to end up having to wait anyway. So another month or another couple of weeks won't hurt anything. And I think it's just really important for us not to just talk about our journeys and what we're going through in our journeys, but to also deal with our mental, spiritual, emotional selves, and really heal, not only before but while we're in the process. Because guess what? If it becomes a successful cycle, ladies and gentlemen, you'll have a pregnant wife, or or for lesbian couples, you'll have a pregnant wife, or you might have a surrogate or something like that, or you may be adopting. Guess what? You're going to have a whole baby to take care of. And you don't want to have all these issues emotionally going into taking care of a baby, because then it can lead to things like PTSD, and it can lead to more stresses. I've been there. I've done it, y'all. And guess what? I had a 24-week old preemie son to take care of after he was born. And, he was in the hospital for 129 days. So I'm telling you guys, if you don't, you're going to crash. If you don't process each stage of the process, if you don't process each stage of your journey, you're going to crash. And some of you may have already had your time of crashing. And, you have a system now that works for you to stay mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually in tune with yourself, and knowing when you need to just cut the cord, And maybe you have been on multiple cycles and it have been unsuccessful, and, maybe it's time for you to take a break, So I just want to reiterate that, and I just wanted to share my experience with it as well, and just to encourage you guys to take breaks when you need to, guys. Take breaks when you need to. And that's just not just for fertility and infertility, but any area of your life that's causing you a lot of stress. Take a break if you can. You know what I mean? Get back to being you. Get back to some normalcy, and doing the things that you love, things that you're passionate about too, outside of that, because there's a whole other life out here, after you finish treatment. Love and light, peace and blessings.